I met Tonija Navas at our office here in Washington, D.C. She's a faculty member at Howard University, one of the top historically black colleges in the U.S.
You talk about building bridges, but you know and I know, and you probably know it a lot more than I do, go out and build a bridge, it's pretty easy to get wood and a hammer and nails and build that kind of bridge. The bridge you're constructing, a lot more difficult, and clearly you've run up against some headwinds along the way. Can you describe what the work's like and the difficulties that you've had to encounter?
When students go on study abroad programs, which is part of the work that I do, they often go from their campus, where I work at a historically black university, where most people on campus look like them. But on study abroad programs, they are definitely in the minority because African Americans do not study abroad at the same rate as other people in this country. And so they're going from that environment to an environment where they are definitely in the minority, particularly on that program. So they're going to another country where they might speak another language. Things are obviously different, but at the same time that they're having to adapt to a new country, they also have to deal with the intergroup dynamics of people from the United States on the same program who might be from different parts of the country, who, maybe they've never had any experience or interaction with Black people, and now they're on this program. And travel is a very intimate activity. And so when you're traveling with people, you spend a lot of time with them. And so what we have seen actually is a lot more interesting dynamics, let's say, among the students from the United States from different places than from the U.S. students as a whole and their host country people. And so trying to figure out how to bridge that gap, we try to do that in pre-departure orientation, prepare our students for how they are going, what they're going to experience when they meet other students from the United States in this whole other country.
Tonija has contributed to the areas of international education and inclusion for decades. She spent 4 years at the University of Cape Town, developing ways to encourage exchange between international and South African students. She worked on the U.S. Department of State's International Visitor Leadership Program and was involved in the creation of an organization that encourages diversity in study abroad programs.
Education is all about learning, and so for someone who's been in that space, what have you learned in terms of similarities, dissimilarities, when you look at people of African descent in Brazil, for example, Colombia, for example, and here in the United States? Clearly there must be some kind of fiber that connects all of them, but then also, as you pointed out, there's got to be some dissimilarities. Can you talk a little bit about both?
It's interesting. I have students in Colombia right now. They come home tomorrow. They've been there for 10 days. We've been doing they've been doing a program all year where they've been partnered with Afro-Colombian students in Colombia and working on their Spanish language skills, the Colombians working on their English language skills. And they've been talking about different themes that are pertinent to Black communities in both countries so that they can talk about precisely what is it that binds them and what are things that are different. In terms of education, access to it is difficult in both places. Luckily, in this country, we have historically Black colleges and universities, which were created at a time when Black people could not access other universities in this country. There aren't those kinds of universities in Colombia or there's one in Brazil. Similar. But for the most part, they don't have historically Black colleges and universities in those countries. So I think access and lack thereof is something that we share. But I think that there's a lot of opportunity to, examine our shared history.
So talk to me about the contributions that we see from Blacks and Latinos in Washington, D.C. and how they kind of help fuel the economic engine here.
Oh, D.C. used to be called Chocolate City because it was a predominantly Black city for most of its existence. Only recently has it shifted demographically to different groups, but I think The Black and Latino populations in this city have contributed immensely to all aspects of cultural life, political life, economic life. Go-go music from DC is, native musical genre that comes out of the Black community here. I just think the contributions are enormous, and DC would not be what it is without Black and Latino populations of this city.
Are you hopeful for the future? What does the United States need to do? What does Latin America need to do to maybe take that next step? Obviously, this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. You know that, I know that. But I mean, what are steps, concrete steps that could happen that you would say, oh, I'm somewhat hopeful?
So no matter what, I'm hopeful. Because if we do not have hope, then there's really no point. But I think in this country, in the United States, I think we have to figure out a way to, there needs to be a major culture shift. We have to figure out a way to turn the volume down on the hate that is coming out of certain people's mouths and other places. And I think we need to continue to be mindful, and we need, everybody needs to participate. It can't just be Black people that are enraged by what is happening. It has to enrage everybody, and it should. And I feel like, unfortunately, sometimes when there are these things that are happening, it enrages people, but we need massive movement of people very upset. Not violently upset, just upset enough to vote different ways, to raise their voice in different ways, and make their positions known, and know that these types of things are unacceptable. And similarly in Latin America, I think that obviously some dynamics are a little bit different in the region, but I think ultimately I'm hopeful, and as demonstrated by the progress that Colombia made, there's still a lot of other progress that needs to happen across the hemisphere, but I am hopeful that, as I know that there are people working, but I think also in Latin America, there needs to be also major culture shift. People who are not Afro-descendant or indigenous need to not feel threatened. I mean, that's what we're seeing here with this great replacement theory. I think that can easily be transferred to Latin America, and this fear that, there's a dying breed of white people in these countries that are going to be replaced. And so I just don't think that that's a viable, that's just not going to happen. There's a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do, but I heard hopeful 3 times, so we're going to leave it there. I like leaving on hope and change, perhaps. Thank you so much.